So for today's video, it will be some paintings of ACEO cards. Yes, going back to traditional finally, as my last several videos just ended up digital art. So a friend of mine actually informed me that ACEO cards were a thing again. And so I decided, you know what, I'll kind of jump on that bandwagon because I already was making those very small postcard paintings, and I thought, why not try doing even smaller paintings? Funny enough, I had already done ACEO cards, but in the very far past, so I didn't even know they were back to being a thing. And we're talking 10, 15 years ago, a really long time ago, in my university days. So the theme of these two cards in particular today are going to be kind of like the boba girls. I had already a sketch of these two girls in my sketchbook. Technically there's three of them, but the two in particular I'm drawing I thought were particularly cute, and I thought they would work great as drawn into a little card. Also, I always enjoy this color palette of pink and blue. I think there's something very soft and pretty about it. I believe there was an artist that was painting something a scene from background scene from Sailor Moon, and I'm maybe that's why I love it so much, because when you see clips of the old Sailor Moon backgrounds, they kind of had those colors. It was very soft and pretty. So I guess almost, what would you call it, retro vibes? I guess even those super retro 70s or something that they do, those logos and stuff like that, or art for music, and those kind of retro vibes often are pink and blue. And yeah, I totally did not realize my camera did this for a whole 15 minutes, I think, of recording. So for a moment there, you could see my sketchbook where one of the girls was. They were colored with acrylic marker, and I think with just ink pens or something, so they were much more simplistically done and not with watercolor. So for these in particular, I just really wanted to add more detail to them, just because it's something for that I want to sell. So I always put way more effort, I suppose you could say, and I'm a bit more of a perfectionist when I'm considering. It's just okay, well, if somebody's gonna own this or something, or gonna pay money for it, it should look like quality. I think I always had that in my head, because anytime I remember when I was younger looking at other people's artworks, it was just that perfect line art, that perfect, crisp everything kind of thing, and it always made me angry if mine looked sloppy or something. It always stresses me out. It's just oh, does this look like a mess? Does this look sloppy? Does this look messy kind of thing? I love this little tool for making circles, but I am also very stupid because I had just I had just applied a very watery layer to the background, and my genius brain with a hard lead went over it, so I slightly dented it. And then I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna freehand the bubbles. I don't know why I'm obsessing with making perfect circles for this. I don't really need it. I needed it for the wolf ones I was making when I was making the moon. I felt it really should be more perfect. It really irritates me when I personally paint a wonky shaped moon that does not look circular. So I was you know what, bubbles, this is okay. Bubbles don't need to be perfect. Tapioca balls aren't perfectly round, right? and this is bubble tea themed, so yeah. It's funny, I always start off with watercolor, but a lot of my artworks end up turning into mixed media artworks. Primarily watercolor, but they still go into mixed media. I used acrylic markers for the bubbles, and then I definitely go into this later on with a little bit of gouache for the outlines, because I realized I really wanted to be more punchy. And making line art with watercolor can be a little bit tricky if because you can easily water down the colors, even when it's really good quality paints or something. The opacity of gouache is still going to beat it out, and it's going to be a lot easier to do even if you've added a little bit of water. At least in my case, I think you could probably mix it much better, but I'm a bit lazy in my approach in the way I'm probably mixing. I'm never really just separating. Half the time I'm just lazily dipping, and I'm probably adding too much water constantly to my brush or something like that, and over dipping it. it's like probably a bad habit I could fix. Honestly, it would help a lot more in terms of like control of the opacity of my watercolors, because I noticed that was like the one thing that I sometimes struggle with when getting it much darker, as I prefer the build. But then again, I think it's just because I prefer the build-up approach as opposed to immediately getting like the darkest color possible you can with watercolor. Actually, you see that mistake in the second one. You'll see that I overdid it, and then I was trying to like pull it back. For the paper for this artwork, I ended up deciding to go with my the Arches cold press paper. I just had it sitting around for the longest time. I don't even know if this is still the pad that I bought from Montreal, and I don't even remember the last time I went to Montreal. It's been years. So it's several years. Has it been maybe 2022? I can't even remember at this point. I'm like, have I been after COVID? Because every time we go to Montreal, I do stop into an art store. But the price was really, really good for it to be for like an Arches pad, to be honest. It's not like the all glued pad. It was just like the sheets where you kind of like flip. So I had barely used it. I think I used it for a couple of like paintings, like that one OC or something I did, and probably another one. Like I've used it a bunch of times, and every time I'm just like, I don't hate it, but it just felt kind of not my favorite kind of thing. Like I kind of prefer every other paper as opposed to the Arches one. I like the quality itself feels nice, but when I'm like painting with it, I think the roughness of the texture just bothers me, and I know a lot of artists have mentioned it. Like I love Arches hot press paper. I highly recommend that one if you like smooth watercolor papers, and I think the flow is still pretty alright. Now, one thing I love breaking out for a lot of my paintings like crazy is the sparkly watercolors that I got from Japan. I think I have actually seen this set now floating around in random art stores. I have no idea what it's called in English. It's just like a very like unlabeled box. I can't even remember which store I specifically got it from. I have a Japanese art haul video, so you can check that one out, because I definitely do go in detail in that video of everything that I bought. It takes a little bit of effort to activate, but once you do, it's just definitely worth the effort, and it looks amazing. Like, I actually held off on buying any sparkly watercolors until I went to Japan, and it was worth it. I managed to find a set of sparkly watercolors to get. That was cheaper than getting like a Paul Rubens set or something. So basically, the first Boba girl is complete. This was actually quite fun to draw, or redraw kind of thing, to like a final little painting, and I was happy to do it because I think this design really fits for something small like it. I might actually even turn this into a sticker design, to be honest. So here I am bagging well, not really bagging, just putting it into a proper card sleeve. So I was debating whether to get like one of those baggy sleeve sort of things that don't feel more like they're a temporary thing. But I decided, you know what, if I'm gonna like sell these, I might as well put them in a proper sleeve that will stay. I just struggle personally with like just sliding it fully in, even though I know it can go in. Also, for some reason, I guess I forgot to show the footage of where I'm actually stamping the back. So I'm stamping them all with the back of the lino cut stamp I made of my logo, which I'm having a lot of fun with because yeah, lino cut and stamping is a lot of fun. So now we've moved on to the next Boba girl. In total, I had actually drawn in my sketchbook 3 of them, I think I'd mentioned earlier, but 2 of them in particular I really liked how they turned out, so I was basically just gonna stick with doing 2 of them instead of the 3rd one. And for the most part, so far, I keep doing all the themes in pairs for the ACEO cards. So I started with drawing 2 wolves in moonlight kind of thing, which I thought it was kind of fun. The number one reason why I went to drawing wolves is because I kind of enjoyed drawing Megumi's wolves or something for the JJK fan art charms and stickers that I'm making, and well, that'll be a postcard as well. And so I was like, you know what, I really kind of want to draw more wolves. And then the next thing I drew was Tanuki, because I thought it was kind of fun to draw them. Main reason actually was because my Instagram randomly decided to keep dumping Tanuki on me or something. I don't know why. It just randomly picks an animal that I didn't even think about or something. Like, it was one time, I think it's still kind of like a mix of also seals, and I'm just like, why the seals? I mean, I'm not complaining, they're adorable kind of thing. The same thing with Tanuki, they're just like these rotund poofy, hilarious looking creatures or something like that. They just look like so much more chonkier than raccoons, and despite not actually even being related to raccoons, but kind of looking a lot like them. And yeah, now to the boba girl, which you can actually see a lot better here. And this is actually the moment where I had mentioned earlier where I kind of got way too intense with the watercolor. Like, I dipped directly into the paint itself, because I have like the dry pans or something, and I was like panicking a little bit there, just because it seemed like way too intense compared to everything else in that moment. So I was trying to keep the overall colors themselves more pastel versus the actual line art. So something I did not record for either of these cards, and I'm sure you can tell slowly for both of these at some point, is that the corners of each point are kind of like curling in, and it gets quite warped or something. So to make sure it gets very flattened, I place the card face down after it's completely finished being painted, and I make sure to place it on a scrap watercolor paper that I have. And then I, with a brush, apply a layer of water. And I don't go too crazy with it, because I don't want the water to start seeping on the other side. I mean, the watercolor paper that I place it on kinda is there to help absorb any extra water, because it's gonna be better than just any kind of cardstock or something. And then I place any kind of paper, like usually cardstock or something, because I have tons of scraps of those. And then I place a lot of heavy books and objects or something on it. And usually I just leave that even overnight, because I don't really have any reason not to, and it makes the card fairly flat. So that will keep your cards and or like any kind of like watercolor paper. You can do that for any size too, but especially for these cards, I noticed they would look really warped. So that helped quite a bit. I know there's a tactic, like, I think people have said, oh, soak your paper entirely, specifically cotton paper. By the way, I don't think this tactic would work with like cheaper watercolor papers. But I have tried everything under the sun when it comes to watercolor papers and keeping them flat, and for me, it always misbehaved, and I did not understand why. I believe this depends on the climate where you are and just how much humidity there is. As far as I understand, that greatly can affect your papers. During the summers here, it is super humid, and then winter, sometimes it can get too dry for my skin, so I have to have a humidifier on. Like, I don't have it directly in my office blasting, it's just like sort of the humidifier that sits in the upper floor or something, and that's where it's just kind of like supplying it. And it's just enough to keep my skin from being coated with eczema, so it helps with that, but it probably just makes my watercolor paper unhappy. But to be honest, I think I'd rather have my watercolor paper unhappy than painful skin. But then again, flattening it really works. And I realized the way I was storing things was another thing, because after you do this process, if you just happen to leave it and not even put it in a sleeve or anything like that, you will slowly, progressively watch it warp back. Maybe not to the extreme, but it will do like a little bit of that kind of weirdness of not staying perfectly flat. So I have thus learned finally that also how you're storing the artworks also really matters. Not that I was just like throwing them, you know, on the floor and walking away or anything like that. I was keeping them all stacked in a drawer or something, and in a closet. You know, it's pretty far and not anywhere towards the humidifier or anything like that. And it's a fairly dry spot in the house too, so it's just like, it really pissed me off. That was like, why is it always going back? But I guess because there was not enough like pressure to keep it in, and I realized the watercolor artworks and mixed media ones, whatever, on watercolor paper, the ones that I was keeping in a portfolio or something, one of that I still had from like a million years ago, those were the only ones that were staying flat. And I was just like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. I did not think about like the after sort of thing. But again, no real harm done. It's not like I said, it's not like I left it in a cold, moldy basement or something like that. So it's still quite fine. I've managed to fix the warpage for a bunch of like old paintings, and that made me fairly happy to not see them all warpy and stuff. So you can definitely recover your older artworks as well. Just also like be careful though. Like again, I did wreck a painting. I had to basically play restoration with it. It wasn't an old one, but a fairly new one when I was trying to flatten it. So just be mindful of how much water you're applying to the back. And again, recommendation is you put the artwork facing down on another watercolor paper or something like that. It doesn't have to be like the best quality watercolor paper either. Just put it to something, just because I think the more porousness will just help in protecting it. I really wanted to go on a tangent about that, just because I know it can be quite frustrating for myself in terms of when the warpage of the artwork happens. So I'm sure others also might struggle with that and get pretty frustrated with it. So yeah, I had a ton of fun working on these boba girls and really like kind of creating a totally finished look with them, as I kind of like the style I did in my sketchbook, the very flat graphic kind of thing. But ultimately, I'm more of the type to enjoy kind of more rendered out artworks. So let me know what you think. And also, these two, along with the rest of my ACEO cards, will be up for sale on my eBay store. So check that out. Links are also below. Thanks so much for watching. See you on the next one.